Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another Wellness Wednesday. Your host, Sharon Johnson, and I am excited to have today Dana Piscopo. And our conversation today stems around April as Alcohol Awareness Month. So let me introduce to you Dana. She is a director of global sales operations for Oracle Industries. Dana leads a talented team that supports the sales force in achieving their targets and enhancing customer relationships. With over 20 years of experience at Oracle, she has developed expertise in complex quota modeling, data analysis, reporting, and training on internal sales tools. In addition to her sales operations role, she runs two programs at Oracle, Reclaim Your Moxie and Oracle Alliance for Recovery. She is the founder of Color Your Life LLC, a coaching business that offers whole self sobriety and recovery coaching to individuals and organizations. She co-hosts a podcast called For Sober Chicks, where they share their stories and insights on living a sober and healthy life. Also interviewing amazing people in the industry who share their stories and resources. As of November 2023, Four Sober Chicks have had over 10,000 downloads. Congratulations, Dana. Dana is a keynote speaker, speaking out on peer support and recovery through her education and certifications in recovery, integrative nutrition, health and wellness, and life coaching. She has gained the skills and knowledge to empower her clients and listeners to achieve their goals and thrive in all aspects of their lives. So without further ado, I want to dive in this conversation. So excited to have with us Dana. Hi, Dana.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I'm excited for our conversation. One, congratulations to your podcast. So wow, 10,000 downloads. That's awesome.
We were a little surprised, pleasantly surprised. So we're just kicking off season 3 in a couple of weeks.
Oh, awesome. I will be tuning in. So maybe in the chat, if you want to just let us know also for that resource, I will certainly plug that in there. If anyone would want to listen to your podcast. I myself had listened to it. It was a fantastic podcast. I think that anyone that is in this journey, if they had their own personal experience, I would definitely say the topics are so very good, very honest and authentic. So if anyone wants to do that, let's put that information in the chat. So April is Alcohol Awareness Month. Let's talk about, that is an area that, some of us may be struggling and some of us may be, ready to take on the first steps. And so what is that steps to that road to recovery? What is step one? Now that, we're aware, we want to take that leap of faith. We want to get on the right side of things. And what should we do?
Yeah. So I think that is the first step, right? Is self-awareness, is to understand if you've been questioning your thought process around alcohol and how much you've been drinking. If you're questioning it, there's a reason why you're questioning it. And I would explore that. There's many roads to sobriety and recovery. Once you have decided that you are going to go down that path, I would absolutely do some research, talk to other people that you trust, to get some ideas on what other people did, because what worked for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for somebody else that you're talking to. So me personally, I dove into a certification program for recovery coaching. So that was my first step. Some people have some more serious issues, right? So they probably should seek out some more professional help. Treatment centers where you can go off to a treatment center for 28 to 30 days, or they have intensive outpatient programs where you go for 3 or 4 hours a day to get that intensive patient therapy. Those are some of the ways that you kind of pick it off.
Mhm.
Recommend AA. There are a ton of AA meetings everywhere globally. Um, and if you walk into one and it doesn't feel right, try another one because they are different. They're run by different people. There's personalities in each one that you might gel with better than the next. Um, there's a wonderful community on Facebook called She Recovers, and we have a huge organization there for women. Um, so there's all sorts of different avenues that you can go. I would also recommend, stepping away from those places that you might get triggered to drink.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're used to going out to the bars 2 or 3 nights a week, I would probably not do that and start looking at what other kinds of habits that you can incorporate into your life that would replace that drinking. I'm not saying give up your friends at all, but find something else to do with them, something active or book club or anything else that just does not require drinking. And I think that's the hardest part at the very, very beginning is not knowing what to do with yourself if you're doing it on your own, right? So,
So what I heard so far is that, once you've become aware and you want to take that first step, there are different avenues, and again, each one is different. And for the information we've provided here today, if they definitely need to seek, professional or therapy, they should certainly consult with a professional to make sure. But what I listen is that as you are aware and as you continue your first step, you're looking at resources that you can reach out to that can help you. I heard AA meetings, and also, steering away from the bars or places that is going to entice you or tempt you to drink. And then, as far as the circle of friends, and I think we can look at that from a very, from a holistic standpoint in the sense of like, you're going to have some friends that will support you in your endeavor. And then there's also going to be some friends I think that will organically fall relatively on this wayside in the sense that they're not going to be following your recovery journey in that way. And I think I want to frame that in a sense that some of your friends that are your friends will stay with you through your recovery, and there's some that it unexpectedly they just aren't going to be there. And so with that, right, with that in mind, having to have that roadmap, you mentioned coaching, and I wanted to, ask you the impact of coaching in combination with, being in the AA meetings, steering away from the areas that they should not be, probably have some of their friends or a whole new set of friends in that way. How does, coaching on this recovery, as a new person, still trying to navigate through this, I'm still wobbly in the knees, and what should they expect? Like, what would that be? The benefits, and then how could they continue, with a coach so that they can get to those, successful milestones for themselves?
yeah, for sure. I think a coach is very important. A coach is not a therapist. So we don't give advice on therapy issues and things like that. Therapists work more on, what's gone on in the past, working on trauma, working on triggers, working on those types of things. Whereas a coach helps in collaboration with the therapist and what you learn from the therapist and putting goals and actions around what you've learned to take that to move forward through your recovery. Um, we do a lot of activities with our clients to help them look at things a little bit deeper, a little bit of a different perspective, taking out that victim bit, and really taking ownership of some of the things that might have pushed them over the edge to the substance use. Um, and I think a coach is very important to that goal keeping, right? We help set goals. We help look at your whole picture and what you want to get out of your recovery and put you on a path that is a lifestyle path, something that you can sustain. Because, you can come out of a treatment center, be all gung ho, come back into, the environment that you left 30 days ago and have no clue how to maneuver that. And that's where a coach would absolutely come in handy on that one, to help you maneuver through some of those issues. Um, I think the activities that you work through with, both the talks that you have with your therapist, but also the activities with a coach, can help you understand those relationships with your friends,
Hmm.
and those that stick with you and those that may drop off. They might drop off because they themselves are uncomfortable with the amount of alcohol they drink, and that this is putting it in their face. Not in a mean way, but
Sure.
they're now looking in the mirror, going, "Do I have a problem? And if I do, I don't want to deal with it. I'm going to walk away from you," kind of thing. And then you'll have the friends that'll keep trying to make you drink, and that you will have to walk away from.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of aspects with the friends. I had to step away from a few friends. I've had friends step away from me. Um, this is where you start digging deep and start learning to love yourself and know that you are enough, that you grow in your confidence, you grow in, your ability and your sobriety and your recovery. As a new person, you find that Moxie. um, and I think that's
Absolutely.
really, yeah, what coaches can truly help with. They help you dig into some things that, can help you create that new path.
And so what I'm hearing, and let me just take a pause real quick, for our audience. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we will check in to see and answer your question. So what I'm hearing is that it can be a partnership
Yes.
with a therapist and the coach, because it's a helping to connect the dots. I think is what I'm getting out of that. That in your on your way to recovery, not having to do you're not alone, right? So that's the first thing to I think consider, having to have both at the same time. And I also, when you mentioned about hard stuff, dealing with, you mentioned trauma, and you mentioned things that are difficult to deal with. And it sounds like with that partnership between a coach and a therapist, you're able to connect your dots from your past and then going into your future as to what that looks like. But there's like guardrails between the two of you to be able to help them, sustain and continue in their road to recovery. Is that what I'm hearing? That's that partnership.
Yeah, yeah. And you could throw a third lens on there with sponsors from AA. That's a whole
Hmm.
different,
Sure.
connection and relationship that somebody might want to have in that program. And that's very different than a coach or a therapist as well. So there's those different aspects. I didn't want to leave any of that out.
No, that's a good call out, because I think I'm seeing it as like a triangle, right? That you have three. I call it trifecta, in the sense of like a resource where you have a coach, you have your therapist, and you have your sponsor. So between the three of you, it in partnership, there is that the recovery person in the middle, that you guys are helping to navigate and get them to continuously get to that path.
Yeah.
um, how does one sustain or maintain sobriety? I mean, there's probably times where, right, we might fall,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
as in anything. And what does that fall, how do we pick them back up, in the sense of, like, if there's a fall, and really, that sustainability is also, willingness for that person. And we've talked about someone that is, ready to do it and has the mindset and is going to continue. I think that's the framework I was thinking about. How do you sustain one, and maintain it? But someone's on the fence. We kind of know where someone's really not there yet, but like between the willingness and the someone to the fence, where do you see, the sustainability and maintenance of their sobriety?
Yeah. So sustainability, you've got to have those tools in place. You have to have, and that's another thing that the coach can help you build, right? Is a toolbox. I do a lot of talks in the construction industry, so the toolbox is a big thing for me. um, And I load it up. I load it up with all sorts of different tools. And you want to make sure your tools are in good condition. You want to make sure that they are working. I think a lot of us have a toolbox that we don't realize we have until we need it. And we realize the tools in it are no good anymore. And we need to find new tools real fast. So I always implore people to keep looking at things that help them in their sobriety, that helps them sustain their sobriety. So for me, my biggest tool is the movie reel. And,
Mm.
um, I was, for me, I was a heavy drinker. The beer that I drank was very high in alcohol, and I would drink to the point of blackout, pass out, those types of things. Um, and with my movie reel, when I pick up one, I don't stop at one. I end at four, 4.5 until I pass out.
Mhm.
I don't want to be at the end of that movie reel ever again, right? I don't want to be passed out. I don't want to have the shakes. I don't want to have the night sweats. I don't want any of that. So I play that in my head before, if I have a craving, I'm like, oh yeah, just one would be really, really great. And then I play the movie reel and I'm like, no, no, no. um, for others, it might be meditation. It might be
Mm.
going to a meeting. It might be calling up their therapist or their sponsor or their coach. Um, Anything you can do to sustain. And I think building a lifestyle with your tools is very, very important. It's not just a one and done thing. And you can't quit for somebody else. You have to quit for yourself. And until you realize that, it's going to be hard to sustain. And I know that there's a lot of people that quit, and 6 months, 9 months, a year, they're like, maybe I can moderate. That's when they fall, right? That's when they relapse. And if you don't have other tools in place, you're going to stay in that relapse state for a while because you're going to feel guilty. You're going to feel shame. You're not going to want to tell anybody. That's going to cause anxiety, which is going to cause you to drink more. Um, and it's okay. It's okay to fail. It's okay to trip up and have a data point where you ended up having a beer one night, right? Um, and then not make sure you don't do it again. But it's failure is supposed to teach us, right? We learn from our mistakes. So if you have that data point where you picked up a drink, um, learn from it. The next day, analyze it a little bit and see why. What was it that triggered you to pick it up? Was it stress? Was it the environment? Was it a person? All those different things. You know, you can start changing the pathway around that person, place, or thing to um, start putting up your guardrails and your borders and your boundaries, to make it a little bit stronger for the next time that you have a craving. And I know I went off on a tangent. Sorry.
No, 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 no. I think it's applicable because I wanted to go into this other one. You sparked me into something that I thought about as well. So, so what about stigma? Is does that come into play as a saboteur to a sustain and maintenance of the sobriety? And that can come in many different places, right? It doesn't necessarily mean it's your family, friends, things like that. It can also come from your coworkers, you're from a facility, things like that. I mean, it comes in very different ways. It's not just a direct, so to speak, as a family, friends that we are familiar with. How do you help someone that with that, because stigma is big, in the way of how society is, society wise, how it's being perceived, and how it's being, so how can we support that, knowing that it's still that stigma?
I think the more of us that can speak out and tell our stories and and put our authentic selves out there, the more it will squash the stigma. Um, the more we talk about it, the more we bring it up into the light to let people know that this is an illness, that we need to help these folks find resources to get better. Um, and it's not who they are. I am not, my drinking. I am me. It was part of who I was. It's part of my story. Um, I went out on a limb. I just started, I needed to tell people my story. I needed, because I knew that stigma was out there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, we need to start talking about this. And I did it at work. It was a go big or go home kind of situation. I went to senior leadership and said, listen, I had this problem. I know I'm not the only one. Let's do something about it. And, the folks that I deal with, and that I help and support here at my work, they feel it. They feel that stigma. And that is one thing that I am working on in the workplace, is to get rid of that stigma. And how we do that is work with management and leadership on empathy and compassion and resources, and have those available, and have these, recovery friendly workplaces where people can feel safe, that they know they still have a job to come back to if they have to go into treatment. Um, it's a big lift. It's a big lift. It's a big initiative that's going on in this country right now. Um, and I think there's a lot of people that are still suffering because they're afraid to talk about it. They're afraid to tell anybody. They're afraid that people will judge them. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it makes me sad. Um, I think by the time I quit, I didn't care if I was being judged or not, because I needed to do it for myself and get better and get healthy again. So anybody out there that feels that way, feel free to reach out to me. I will talk with you and support you, whatever you need. Because if you have at least one person listening to you, and understanding your story, the stigma can start being squashed down.
Totally agree. I mean, I think that everyone has a story,
Yep.
and everyone has a journey. And I think that in that journey, everyone has their own perception, and what they think that it looks like in their sobriety when they're ready. And what I've heard, just to kind of wrap things up in the way that what I'm hearing is that, the workplace, that's huge. I think there are some folks in the workplace that and silently are suffering in ways that, whether it's alcohol, that's our focus of topic, but I'm sure there's other, substance use of choice. And then also, not being alone, having to have that knowledge that you're not alone. But I think the biggest one that you hit most closest was the stigma. And I think that really is, from a macro level, stigma is just huge. And having to say your story is helpful. Sorry. So I am just touched by the work that you're doing,
Thank
kind
you.
of everything that's been done. I'm sorry. Um, so how do we get in touch with you? What's the best way?
So
You know.
you can email me at Dana, Dana, at coloryourlifellc.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me via Four Sober Chicks, with a four, not a FOR yet. um, so I'm all over the place. If I'm on Instagram as Reclaim Your Moxie, so feel free to reach out to me, and we can post this somewhere as well. I have a website, coloryourlifellc.com. Um, so feel free to reach out to me if you need it. If you just want to talk, if you want more information, whatever your heart desires.
Thank you so much, Dana, for being our guest. I'm so sorry about my
It's all
my
good.
voice, everyone.
I hope you're okay.
We're good. We just had a little bit tickle there. So this was really a good conversation. I hope that whoever's listening today will be able to get your information. At the end of this session, I certainly will repost that, and they can connect with you. I think this was a conversation that is helpful, and I think we can certainly share what resources is available, and the importance of having to have the coach, the therapist,
Yeah,
even an AA sponsor, just knowing the resources is available for them. So
absolutely. listening.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dana. I so appreciate you being here.
Thank
And
you for
thanks,
having
everyone.
me.
Yes, yes.